Welcome back everyone. It's time to finish these orchids. It took us a minute to get here, but you know what? I absolutely love what is happening on my canvas. So I cannot wait to bring these final details into this painting. Now, this morning I actually spent a bit of time on Google asking it to teach me a little bit more about the orchid's construction and the proper names of its parts. So, without going into much detail, this little knobby thing that I keep referring to is called a column. So, we're going to be putting in the columns and also the lips that is sort of the landing pad for insects in order to help pollinate. And the lips is consisting out of a landing pad and a shield that's on the side. That's my name for it. Because it gets a little bit complicated, and I want to keep it as simple as possible and still refer to the proper parts of the flower without offending anyone or going into too much detail. Right, okay, so for this session, we are going to finally now get into this mixture that I've been talking about, and that is cadmium red and magenta. And then let me just grab my white as well. Oh, I've cleaned up my studio a little bit, my container is back, so I could just organize my life a little bit. So titanium white, and I also have cadmium orange. So these are basically the colors we're going to need. So I'm just going to dispense it here on my palette because I've also cleaned out my wet palette, and this is going to be a shorter session if the paint and the brush cooperates. So I'm just going to put out a little bit of these colors on my dry palette, and hopefully I will use most of it. So I'm going to try not to waste. I hope you guys are all doing well and that you are as excited to get into this final details of the orchids as I am. Right. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to put in the lips of these orchids and the little shields around the column. And I think I'm going to use my very small filbert brush for that. So let's activate the brush with a bit of water. I've got my kitchen towel handy. And I'm going to make a fairly deep mixture with my cadmium red and my pink, my magenta. And immediately you can see here when the two comes together, what a beautiful mixture this is. Okay. So I'm basically going to bring in this little lip. I'm going to try and do it with one brush mark, and I'm going to twist my brush towards the column. So the cadmium red is going to give me some opacity, and the magenta is just cooling it down. So let me try and make this looking pretty without painting it 700 times. I know I'm tending to overwork an area. It's just because I really want to capture a certain feeling or light. And if it means I take a minute, and that is how I bring these elements together, then it takes a few layers. That's okay, isn't it? Nothing wrong with a few layers. Okay. Let's look at our reference material. So what I'm doing, I'm going to do it here on my palette. I'm placing my flat part of my brush down, and as I go towards the column, I twist my brush and I lift it up. So it gives me a beautiful, almost teardrop shape. Load enough paint on your brush. This one is almost also too big for this particular area, but I've just used the little side. That looks nice. The paint is very impasto, so it's also giving me a little bit of texture there. This little one in the back I'm going to do with a fine brush. This one's little lip, you basically just see the one. So I'm just going to talk about it. This one is quite pronounced. That looks nice. And then another beautiful full one over here. That's nice. I might have to, I'm going to leave that as dark as it is in there because there's a beautiful shadow in there, and I'll use my fine liner just to bring out some of the highlights. Okay, now the side lips has a little bit of orange to it, so I'm not going to rinse my brush. I'm going to dive right into my cadmium orange as well. And it's basically almost two kidney shapes. That's very thick. So I think my brush is too big for the area. So then we switch brushes. Let's go to the number 3 detail brush. I'm going to pick up my colors and bring them over here. And I'm going to try again to create this shape. Okay, that one is a little bit more to the purpley side. Nice. Pretty! Okay, like I said, I knew this was going to just bring everything together. All our hard work is going to pay off now. That's pretty. Okay, this one is a lot of magenta, mostly magenta. This one as well. I'm going to switch to this last one here. Okay, so there we bring in some orange again. I'm not thoroughly mixing my colors. I'm allowing the colors to sort of mix as I put it down with my brush. This one down here is a lot of cad red. This one's little lip is a little bit warmer. Oh, that is just so pretty. Let's try this one again. And the one down at the bottom is also mostly magenta, so I'm going to mix this in a little bit. And the one there in the background is very cad red kind of feeling. And there's not a lot of detail, but we do have this presence there. So then I'm just going to, here and there, in the center of some of these flowers in the background, I'm just going to add a little bit of my magenta cad red mix. And just talk a little bit about that these orchids in the background also have beautiful flowery mouths. I think that's pretty. Alright, let's rinse our brushes. I'm gonna use a little bit of my orange and bring it to my white. Very little. I just want to warm this white up a little bit so it's not pure white. Add more water. A little bit more orange. There we go. I'm just going to bring in this column first with this warm orangey white, and then we'll put a pure white on top. Pretty. Just bring that attention to the center. That looks nice. Awesome! Unfortunately though, we're going to have to let this dry. So I think I'm quickly going to pause the video because I want to add the highlights to these areas as well. But before I go, let me just see how I can warm up these front petals with a bit of this orange cad red mixture. Let's add a bit more magenta to it to cool it down. And I'm going to add a bit of this white mixture to it just to brighten it up a little bit. So we're talking about the inside of these little lips. And on the front of it. Just brighten them up a little bit. bit more of this orange here. Right. I think I need a little bit of violet. What have I done with my violet? And will I be able to open it? It's a whole nother can of worms. Yes, thank goodness. So we need a little bit of shadow. So I'm picking the violet because it's analogous with the magenta, meaning it's right next to it. I'm going to add a bit more magenta. I'm going to switch to my, let's first mix the color. So I want a little bit of a darker magenta kind of vibe here. A little bit more towards the plum side. That looks nice. And I just want to dull it down a little bit by adding a bit of orange. So it's almost a complementary color because the orange will now neutralize the blue in the violet, making it a little bit more matte. Now, this top part of this little lip is definitely deeper. And this front bit here. This is a little bit more in shadow. On the outside. Just these little details can just make the world of difference in the overall appearance of your painting. I almost said movie. It is like a movie. It develops frame by frame. Okay, let's do the same here. It's a bit darker on the outside. Let's add a drop of water. Powerful stuff. Light and shadow. Values are so important just to help you communicate the shape that you are painting. That one's tiny. Let's rinse. I'm going to get into my orange here. Just roll it off and add the water to it. So I want this to be a little bit brighter. So you don't have to talk about all the detail. but it is helpful. I'm just going to switch to a clean brush. I just want to blend this in a little bit. Powerful stuff. That one is a little bit more magenta here. My aircon is running, so the paint is drying much faster than I'm used to. Again, just showing you how powerful and supportive the wet palette can be. Pretty! Yay! Let's do the happy dance. Okay. I'm going to bring out my FW titanium white acrylic ink, potent stuff, and my 000 fine liner. Right, let's put that there. Now, on top of the column is a very bright highlight. And then touching the sides of these little lips. I'm literally running on the edge there. Maybe a little bit there. Can you see how much attention that is pulling towards the center of your orchid now? Just on top of the column. I'm gonna go back to that, just on top. Just emphasizing these little lip shapes and the light catching it. That feels a bit bright. I'm just going to touch it just to cool it down a bit. But so many times I think it's too much, and then when I edit my video, I'm like, why did you cover that up? It was perfect. The joys of being an artist. going to use this just to talk a little bit about some of those inside moments. I'm happy with that. Our orchid flowers are officially a wrap, with the exception of this one pod. But like I said, we'll do this maybe in the next video before we get into the dragonfly. I think the dragonfly is going to be very happy to fly around this field of orchids and to find its food. So thank you guys. Please take a photograph of your canvas and where you are right now and share it with me on our chat groups, and I'm excited to see what you guys have been doing up until now. So in our next session we'll dive into our next part of our painting. I'm very excited. I'll see you then. Bye bye for now.